Welcome back, everybody, to the Tennessee Titans franchise here on Madden 23. The Titans return to prime time as we've got Thursday Night Football here in Nashville against the lowly Houston Texans. Right now, it appears to be a three-way race within the AFC South, and the Texans are the odd man out. They have gotten off to another really bad start this year with only one win. But it is a primetime game, and it is a divisional matchup, so I don't want to take these guys lightly. I know the Texans had the ability to beat us, especially considering we have been far from perfect this year, but we are playing good football as of recent. We've won 2 in a row. We're coming off a win in the last episode against the Denver Broncos, 28-23, returning from our bye week. And in today's episode, we'll be going over our second prospect profile of the year, as we're going to be talking about the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends in this draft class. I think our offensive skill position group could use a little bit more juice, so I would not mind adding another one here in the offseason. It probably won't be a running back because Derrick Henry and Elijah Bryant are quite good as is. Wide receiver's a position we could look to upgrade on. Obviously, Scotty's great, but Burks and Watson are on the last year of their deals, and I'm not so sure that I'm sold on Quinn Crew or Hot Rod Pryor. We've got Kyle Pitts and Muhammad McBride at tight end, but Kyle Pitts is on the last year of his deal, and Muhammad McBride has played one game for us. We just acquired him at the deadline from Detroit. So wide receiver and tight end are both spots that we could look at this offseason. Running back, not so much, but I do want to go over the running back class because it is loaded. There's probably going to be more running backs that go in the first round this year than quarterbacks, which is pretty crazy. This draft class is pretty comparable to the Season 2 running back class, which was really good at the top. This class is not as deep as Season 2. There's like 12 or 13 different running backs there that are going to be good starters one day. I don't think that's the case here, but there are a lot of good players at the top. And again, it's comparable to Season 2 because there were 3 first-round guys with D.R. Antoine from Rutgers, Elijah Bryant from Florida, who we obviously drafted, and Brody Kluge from Florida State. The man who replaced Kluge at Florida State, Jayshawn Tate, has been arguably even better, and he is currently the top projected running back in this class. Through the first 6 weeks of the college football season, I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say that Tate has been the best player in the country, regardless of position or team, period. He has been that good. Florida State is currently the number 1 ranked team in the country, and Jayshawn Tate is the reason why. He has been dynamic out of the backfield, 6 foot, 204 pounds. He's got good quickness, good explosiveness, and he's a tough physical runner. He can break tackles, he's very efficient, and he has been carrying the Seminole offense this year, nearly matching his rushing touchdown total from a season ago. And compared to some of the other running backs in this class, he has shown a little ability in the passing game. I think Tate has a shot to be an absolute superstar at the next level as his stock continues to rise up quickly. But he's not the only elite running back prospect in this draft class. Mookie Davis has been a stud for the Ohio State offense for a number of years, and he has been even better this year. Last year as a junior, Davis was arguably the best running back in the country, helping lead Ohio State to winning the national championship, and he has taken another step up this year. He would be the convincing RB1 if not for Jayshawn Tate playing like the Heisman Trophy winner. Mookie Davis is 5'11", 215, another guy with good athleticism, quickness, and toughness as a runner. Davis has been unbelievably efficient throughout his career. With 570 carries, he's averaged around 7 yards per carry in his career. That's insane. He's averaging over 8 yards a carry this year, and he's one of the best receiving prospects in this draft. He checks off all the boxes, and I think he's as good, if not even better of a prospect than D.R. Antoine out of Rutgers was a couple years ago, which is high praise. Harrison Myers out of Cal is also another guy who could end up being a first-rounder. Again, most years he would be RB1, but because this is such a good running back class, he is not the top projected one of the group, but he's still going to be really good. He's 5'9", 230 pounds, and he has the toughness to run like a 230-pound runner, but in the open space, he looks like he's 5'9", 200 with his quickness and his speed. He's also a major asset in the passing game, and he has been the engine of the Cal offense. I know they've had some turmoil at the quarterback position over the past few years, but it's been Harrison Myers, truthfully, who is carrying the load. He's averaging 7.2 yards a carry this year and around 120 rushing yards per game, which is pretty insane. He's also put up good receiving numbers. Again, an asset in the passing game, along with his dynamic ability as a runner. I think all three of these top running backs will end up being first rounders, which is pretty crazy. I cannot remember the last time we had 3 running backs go in the first round. Guys like Casey Aceron and Darius Edwards would be surefire first round running backs if not for those guys at the top. Then we get to the fringe day 2 guys like Stave Redfield Kent, Jelly McCluntz, Antonio Crane, and Harry Stewart out of TCU. Let's take a look at Stewart in particular, a player who we have followed really his entire collegiate career because as a sophomore he broke out as a superstar and he was one of the best players on a TCU team who ultimately won the national championship. Well, he is still here with the Horned Frogs 2 years later. Even though TCU has seemingly fallen from grace, Harry Stewart is really good. The problem is he's just not an NFL-level athlete. He doesn't have elite speed or explosiveness, but he's a very smart, patient, aware, and efficient runner. And I think he's got pretty good ball carrier moves despite his lack of quickness and change of direction. That may be an issue at the next level, but I think he's a really steady player who has shown the ability to make big plays. The problem is he doesn't necessarily have the speed to outrun defensive backs, and he doesn't have the agility to try to outrun them in creative ways. He's an asset in the passing game as well. That certainly goes to his advantage. I think he's going to be a good pro, but the lack of athleticism and quickness obviously is not ideal. But as we saw at the highest level a couple years ago as a sophomore in the college football playoff, this guy has the talent to be really, really good. There are some intriguing gems down the board. Players who you might want to look out for on day 3, like Aquesto Chigalomoklo, Nick DiMaggio, Trey Williams, Travis Mitchell, and Kyrie Freeze, who lead the way. Rudolph Moore out of Stanford's a player who I think is going to be underdrafted and could be very good. Let's now look at the wide receiver class, and I don't think it's a great group. There are some intriguing names at the top, but I don't think it's a super top-heavy group. And I don't think it's all that deep in comparison to recent receiver drafts. Probably the worst wide receiver class we've had in this series so far, which is not ideal for the Titans because we might look at adding a wide receiver this year. There's really 5 guys who could go in the first round, but I think there's 2 clear ones, and we'll start with Sammy Wusus from South Alabama. He has been phenomenal over the last couple of years. He originally transferred in, and ever since his sophomore season, he's been really good. 6'2", 200 pounds. He's got good athleticism, good hands, good routes. He really checks off all the boxes at the wide receiver position, which is why I think he will be the first one off the board. He has played a little bit worse this year than the past, but it's not entirely his fault. South Alabama's had a major downgrade at quarterback, but that also poses the question, is Sammy Wusus really good? Or was he really good because of their previous offensive system with their previous QB? And I think that's a pretty fair question, but I will say in South Alabama's last game against Texas, Sammy Wusus basically won them that game on the road against a top 10 team. He put the team on his back, and that certainly rose his stock. Justice Everdeed from Oregon's the other receiver who, if I were to guess, probably ends up in the first round. Everdeed's a very, very talented player because of his ability with the ball in his hands. This kid is lightning as a runner. His 40-yard dash time at the combine is probably going to start with the numbers 4 and 2. Justice isn't just speed, though. He's got all-around ridiculous athleticism, great acceleration, great agility, great jumping. I mean, he's going to put on a show at the combine. His relative athletic score is going to be probably the highest at the receiver position ever. The problem is he needs to be a little bit more refined as a pass catcher. His numbers have taken a slight nosedive, but it's understandable because he's playing with a new quarterback. The new QB got injured, so now he has another new quarterback. So naturally, the Oregon passing offense has been a little bit worse, but even so, I would like to see his hands and routes more consistent, but if that happens, then he's going to be a stud. Jonathan Gonzalez and Trayvon Scott headline the next group of receivers, but I'm honestly most intrigued by Ashton Ayaluko out of Utah. I think he's kind of going under the radar. He's a player we haven't really talked a whole lot about in the NCAA Next Up series because he plays for Utah, and Utah hasn't been a very relevant program, but they've got a stud at receiver in Ayaluko, who's been a great player, not just this year, but really over the last few years. He's another guy who really checks off all the boxes at the receiver position. 6'2", he's got ridiculous hands, ridiculous route running ability, he's a good separator. He's the most polished receiver in the draft class, and it really shows with his numbers. He's been very consistent since his sophomore season in 2023. He's got good, but not great athleticism that limits his ceiling a little bit, but I would venture out to say he's going to be the best of all these receivers on day one as a rookie because he's going to be sharp right off the bat. Let's look down the board a little bit. Scotty St. Anthony out of Vanderbilt has had a huge breakout season. His name is really rising up draft boards over the last few weeks. Jameer Kafili's been a solid receiver for UCF since his freshman year. Baby Simmons from Arizona State's a pretty good player, as is Auden Green from the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. Racer Fox out of Washington's been very good over the last few years. Xavier Apple-Benz has been quite solid recently for Georgia Tech. Jaden Lewis from Notre Dame is having a great season. But I want to look at Kyrese Tellington III out of Akron. He has been phenomenal this year, zipping down the field, pun intended. Tellington is 6'5", 240 pounds. He's got the frame of Calvin Johnson. Athletically, he's not Megatron, but he might be the closest thing we've seen since Calvin Johnson was drafted in 2007. Tellington has unbelievable speed, size, and overall polish as a receiver, being 6'5", 240 pounds, and this year he has taken a major step up. He's averaging 140 receiving yards a game, and he currently leads all of college football in receiving yards and receiving yards per game. So the production is there, the athleticism is there, the polish is there. I don't know why he's being looked at as a day 3 pick. I think this is a guy who could challenge to be one of the first 3 or 4 receivers off the board. Are there some more names to watch out for on day 3? I like Ja'Cory Smoke a lot out of San Jose State. DeAndre Kyle has had a good season for Boston College, even though Boston College is pretty bad. Walton Moran from Baylor would be really good if he was not in a run-first offense. And there are some interesting names within the undrafted group, including Tracy Moore from Oklahoma, a player who our quarterback Romeo Colochi is very familiar with. It's a very talented tight end class. You've got 3 guys who could end up being first-round picks, headlined by Josh St. George out of TCU, Orlando, welcome to the slaughterhouse out of Michigan State, and Jair Williamson, the cousin of Clyde Williamson, out of Georgia. I want to look at Josh St. George in particular because I think he's the best prospect of the group. Another TCU Horned Frog. He was not a starter on the national title team, but he was still a key player on that roster. When TCU won the national title, they had Mario Hummeler as their tight end. Hummeler ended up being a first-round pick to the Minnesota Vikings after his senior season. I think Josh St. George is an even better prospect than Hummeler, who again was a first-rounder. St. George checks off most of the boxes athletically. He's got good hands, pretty good route runner. He's not one of the better blocking tight ends in this draft, but he's still a good enough blocker. It's just that there happen to be some really good blockers in this tight end class, and St. George kind of has that skill overshadowed, but he's still very sufficient in that area. With his athleticism, receiving ability, and overall well-roundedness, I think he's going to be a pretty good tight end right off the bat, but I think the ceiling is a little bit higher than guys like Orlando Slaughter and Jair Williamson. So that's why I think Josh St. George right now is probably the best tight end in the draft. But again, you've got those 2 guys right behind him, and looking down the board a little bit further, Dylan Weddle from Ole Miss is currently hurt. Hasn't played all that well this year, but he was really good last season. Marco Mazzilio Jr. from Clemson. Tyrese Caitlin from Syracuse. Dante Tillman from the University of South Alabama. All very, very solid players, and I think the Titans could look to add a tight end, even if they do end up retaining Kyle Pitts on a long-term contract or the franchise tag. So let's now take a look at our matchup here this week with the 1-6 Houston Texans. And again, the Texans are not a very good team, and they have not been good throughout the entirety of the series. They've consistently had high draft picks. They have been able to add a ton of young talent. This past offseason, they really improved the offense by adding Aaron Jones and DJ Moore, but it hasn't done anything. They're still only 1-6. However, I don't want to take this game lightly. It's a Thursday night game. It's on primetime football. And since it's Thursday night and a short week, I think it kind of neutralizes the playing field a little bit, along with the fact that these 2 teams play in the same division. I think that neutralizes it as well. So even though the Titans are a significantly better team than the Texans and the Titans are at home, I think the Texans would make it a game. And if I was a betting man, I would probably bet on Houston to at least cover the spread, because I think they've got a chance to make this game pretty interesting. If you look at the Texans' scores throughout the year, yeah, they suck. They're 1-6, but they've got a lot of close games in here. They play teams tight into the finish, and I think that could be the case again here against our Tennessee Titans. At quarterback, they have Kane Sanders, the former top 10 pick, hometown kid out of the University of Houston, and this year has not gone well for him at all. Sanders had a pretty rough rookie season. This year, with better offensive skill position players around him, he has been even worse. I might be a little bit early, but he is getting close to bust status. They've added guys like Otis Washington, Aaron Jones, and DJ Moore, and he has not been able to produce at all. They've got a good group of young players defensively with Cyrus Okpoko, Derek Stingley, Gabe Feldstead, Octavius Thatcher, Jalen Petrie, and they're just not winning games. But they've got a pretty talented roster, in my opinion. It's just that these young guys really haven't been able to click all together with their new head coach, Mike Vrabel, the former head coach of our Tennessee Titans. So let's hop into this matchup here. The 4-3 Titans looking to win 3 in a row as they face off against the last place 1-6 Houston Texans on Thursday Night Football. The Texans will open up with possession. First play of the game. It's a handoff up the middle for Aaron Jones, acquired this offseason via free agency. The longtime Green Bay Packer gets a solid gain, and Alexander Ekwueme, the defensive tackle, is hurt. Ekwueme has had a breakout season for Tennessee. That is certainly not good news. 3rd and 5. Sanders looks to throw it under pressure, and he is sacked. Francis Boa-Kamoa, the rookie out of Buffalo, with half a sack. His first career QB sack. Harold Landry was also in the backfield for half a sack as well. So the Titans will get the ball. It's a RPO on 1st and 9 for Quinn Crew, who gets 16. You don't see a 1st and 9 every day, but you got to see one there. 2nd and 7 now. Romeo Colucci looks to throw it up the middle. Connects with Treylon Burks. Burks weaving through defenders as he gets into the 28-yard line. Good play there by the young receiver who's on the last year of his contract. 2nd down now. Colucci looks for the corner of the end zone. It's caught. Scotty Pickens with the touchdown. And the Titans are quickly on the board. A very good start on both sides of the ball for Tennessee as they lead at 7-0. Here comes back the Texans offense. They were running the ball pretty well. I want to see if they can continue to do that on the ground as it's a handoff for Aaron Jones with plenty of room to the left side. Hit hard by Chidobe Awuzie, but not before getting it to the 50 for a solid 1st down gain. Following play here for the Texans with about 3 minutes left to go in the 1st quarter. Handoff again up the middle for Aaron Jones with more room to the left side. Wrapped up by Byard, but not before getting 13 yards. The Texans just need to keep running the ball because that's what's working. On 2nd down, Sanders is sacked. Francis Boa-Kamoa again, along with Jordan Ruffin with the sack. Now a 3rd and 18, a big loss for the Texans. Sanders looks to throw it under pressure, and he is sacked, loses the ball, and it's picked up by Kalen Fonts, the right tackle, as Hendrickson is hurt. That was Francis Boa-Kamoa, the rookie, with the strip sack. In the 1st quarter today, Boa-Kamoa has 3 TFLs and 2 sacks. Going into today, he never had a TFL or sack in his entire career. 7-0 going into the 2nd quarter. The Titans have the lead with pretty good field position here on the first play of the quarter as it's a 3rd and 5. Romeo Colucci looking to call an audible as it's a handoff up the middle for Elijah Bryant, and he will get around 3. Jalen Petrie leading the way for the Texans as they get the stop. 4th and 1 from the 27, and it looks like Tennessee's going to go for it. Handoff up the middle for Derrick Henry. He gets the 1st and more, breaking tackles, and he is gone. 27-yard touchdown. The King has entered his castle and has been thrown by the Tennessee crowd. Titans now lead at 14-0. Good run by King Henry. Tennessee continuing to dominate early in this game. The Texans have to answer, and they have to do it quick. 2nd and 10, Sanders under more pressure from Boa-Kamoa as he connects downfield with DJ Moore, wrapped up at the 18 by Cardell Simpson. Good play by Moore, good throw by Sanders. 3rd and 3 now from the 12. Sanders looks short, and it's incomplete as he tries to get it to John Mechie III. That'll bring out the field goal team here, and it's a fake! Oh my God! Houston's faking the kick, and it backfires. The kicker loses 2 on the run. He's wrapped up by Devontae Turner Jr., so the Titans get this stop. They still lead at 14-0. Common Texans moment of shooting themselves in the foot. Elijah Bryant quickly loses 2. Treylon Burks unfortunately hurt. That was the young linebacker, Octavius Thatcher, with the tackle for loss. 3rd and 11. Colucci hit as he throws, and he connects with Pryor, who fumbles the ball. And it's picked up by Derek Stingley. That was a really good throw by Colucci, all for it to be a turnover. Hot Rod Pryor got hit hard by Gabe Feldstead, the 3rd-year safety out of Oklahoma. And as we look at that play again, I want to get a clear look if it is a fumble. Yeah, that ball is clean as day out. Feldstad forces a big fumble, and it'll remain a 14-0 ball game as the Texans get themselves an opportunity to look to get back in it. 5:37 left in the first half. Handoff up the middle for Aaron Jones again. Let him cook. He gets it to the 24-yard line. The Texans should just exclusively run the ball at this point. I like how much they're leaning into Aaron Jones because it is very clearly working. Handoff to Jones again with more room up the middle. He's now over 100 yards here in the first half with ridiculous efficiency. You thought Mookie Davis's 8 yards a carry was impressive. Aaron Jones is doing that right now against an NFL defense. 3rd and goal. Sanders is sacked again. Cardell Simpson brings him down for a loss, and the Texans will be held out of the end zone once again. They're going to look to kick the field goal now. I assume they're not going to fake it again. The kick is up and good, and Houston is on the board as it is now 14-3. The Titans will get it back. They are still up by 11. On first down, Colochi's under some pressure, trying to run away from the defender, but he will still be sacked. Nice play by Darius Williams. 3rd and 12 now for the Titans. 2.5 minutes left in the first half. Colochi looks to throw it with time. Takes a shot deep for Scotty Pickens, who comes down with it to the 50. Scotty Pickens is really good. The one problem with his game is that he's had major drop issues this year. Good to see him holding on to the ball there. 3rd and 9, Pickens again up the middle. Gets the first down to the 34 as Kermit Cusick is hurt for the Texans, the 3rd-year defensive tackle from Rice. 2nd and 4, Colochi looks for the sticks, and it's caught by Pryor, and he is in for a touchdown. Good play after the catch by Hot Rod Pryor for the score. Nice throw by Romeo Colochi as well. Romeo's been fantastic tonight, albeit against the Texans, as it's now 21-3. Houston looking to make some plays. There's a nice throw up the middle for Higbee. Houston calls timeout number 2. They know they've got to score here before the end of the first half. Sanders on 1st and 10, throws it up the middle, and it is caught. Nice gain to the 43-yard line, and the Texans are continuing to move it. Down to about 30 seconds now. Sanders goes downfield, and it's dropped. Caleb Farley and an interception right in his hands. 10 seconds to go now. It's a 53-yard try for Houston. The Titans call a timeout looking to ice the kicker. They've got a man deep. I believe that's Rocket Reddick, ready to return it if this kick goes short. Does not look like it'll go short. Instead, it goes right down the middle, and it is now 21-6. That'll wrap up the first half. Pretty good start here for the Titans. We're moving the ball well offensively. Romeo Colochi's playing very well. The defense has been mostly good, but the run defense has been, a train wreck, to put it nicely. Aaron Jones is running down our throats. Since this is the Thursday night game, we've got no halftime highlights because there's nothing to show. Some games to keep an eye on: Jacksonville and New England at the 1 o'clock slate. And then on Monday Night Football, the Broncos head to Indy to face off against the Colts. We will certainly be rooting for New England and Denver in those games. The Ravens play against the Rams at 4:15 on Sunday. The Titans play against the Rams next week, so I'm curious to see how they look against a tough Ravens team. Then on Sunday Night Football, the Bucs face off against the Seahawks. Sterling Yorkshire leads the way for Tampa Bay against Jackson Kayuma and the lowly 1-win Seahawks, who the Titans also have on their schedule pretty soon. Let's take a look at what we need to do in the second half. Romeo Colochi's been playing very well, and since we have the lead, we're probably going to be running the ball a lot. Defensively, I know our run defense has not been able to stop a nosebleed, but since the Texans are trailing, they're probably going to throw the ball a lot, so I would rather focus on stopping the passing game, particularly the intermediate game. The Titans will open up the third quarter with the ball. Scotty Pickens in the zone as he outruns the defender. Pickens weaving his way through tacklers as he gains around 25 yards on the jet sweep. Tennessee appears to be right back to business early on this possession. Now from the 40, Romeo Colochi looks to throw it under pressure, and he is sacked. Colton Young coming out of the nickel brings him down for a loss of about 11. 3rd down and pretty long now for Tennessee. Colochi's going to take a shot downfield, and it's broken up. He was hoping that Scotty Pickens would somehow make a play, and he does not. So the Texans get the ball back, still trailing by 15. Sanders off the play action with a nice throw up the middle. That's a solid gain of around 21 yards as Houston's looking to do some damage here, maybe make it a one-score game. Sanders goes short on 2nd and 4. It's caught by the tight end Tyler Higbee, breaking tackles, makes his way to the 48-yard line. I know Kane Sanders has had a pretty bad season, but honestly, he's been solid today. Sanders hit as he throws, and it is incomplete. I think Farley and Awuzie both wanted to pick that ball off. Harold Landry was the one with the pressure. So the Titans get the ball back. It's a 3rd and 10. Colochi running for his life in the pocket. Heaves one deep, and it is broken up by Feldstedt. He should have just thrown it away. Nobody was open. He's lucky Feldstedt didn't intercept it. Not that it would have really been more than an arm punt. So the Texans have it back, trying to get back down to the ground game as Aaron Jones gets another nice run. Even though they're trailing, they should keep running the ball with how well Aaron Jones has performed in this ball game. Tight end in motion, that's Chad Johnson, the former second rounder out of Penn State. As Aaron Jones gets it again, Houston's run blocking continues to be ridiculous, and Jones will gain 20 more. Can the Titans, stop him for the love of God, please? 2nd and 10 now from the 20. Houston's in the red zone. Perfect opportunity to make it a one-score game, but that is not going to help. Devontae Turner Jr., the second-year pro out of Purdue, with the sack, and it's now a 3rd down and 17 for the Texans. Sanders alone in the backfield looking to throw it. Goes downfield, and it is broken up in the secondary. Good play by Kevin Byard. So Houston's going to have to kick a field goal. You can make the argument of them going for it since they're down by 15, but it's a 4th and 17. I don't think that'd be super logical. Kick is good, and it is now 21-9. The Titans have 3 touchdowns today, while Houston has 3 field goals. On 1st down, Romeo Colochi rolls out to the right, and he is sacked again by Johnson. Romeo Colochi saw what he did against Buffalo by outrunning their defensive lineman and is trying to do it again, and it isn't really working. On 3rd down, he gets a nice throw to Pryor, but it's a little bit offline and complete. And so that'll wrap up the 3rd quarter. Tennessee appears to be in business, but I wouldn't say this game is quite over yet. Houston will be getting the ball back down by 15. If they can score here, they can make it an interesting game. 2nd and 3. Sanders backs up in the pocket under pressure, and he is sacked. Jordan Ruffin with half a sack. Juan Thornhill with the other half. Jordan Ruffin's making some plays tonight, which is really good to see, along with obviously Francis Boa Kamoa in the 1st quarter. Those guys stepping up with Alexander Ekwueme injured. However, on 3rd and 15, the Titans do my favorite defense of cover 0. And when I say cover 0, I mean cover 0 people. DJ Moore left uncovered. He takes it all the way for a touchdown, and the Houston Texans are within 1 possession. It's 21-16. I told you guys the Texans are going to make it a game. On 2nd down, Muhammad McBride makes a ridiculous catch. Romeo was just throwing it up, hoping he got lucky, and McBride makes a really nice grab. On 1st down is a handoff up the middle for Derrick Henry, who's in the zone. Breaks a tackle, and Henry gets into the 24. The Titans know they've got to score here, preferably a touchdown, because a field goal would only make it an 8-point game. On 1st down, Romeo Colochi is sacked. Darius Williams again with another play, and it's now 3rd and 16. Colochi's going to look short for Quinn Crew, and he gets 15. So it's an interesting 4th and 1. Do you kick, or do you go for it? It's an interesting dilemma, because the Titans are up by 5. If they were up by 6, I think they'd probably kick. But instead, they're going to go for it, and Derrick Henry not only gets the 1st, but he's going to drag defenders with him to the 3. Roderick Johnson hurt on the play for the Texans. And then on 2nd and goal, Elijah Bryant will walk it in for a score. And the Titans are right back up by 2 possessions. Big drive from Romeo, Henry, and the Titans to put themselves back in a comfortable position with under 5 minutes left to go. The Texans are now kind of in desperation mode. They could really use a miracle, as it is a 2nd down and 7. Kane Sanders looks to throw it. He's under a little bit of pressure, and he has a wide-open man up the middle. Again, cover 0 people. The receiver completely uncovered. That's Cassius Morris, the 2nd-year pro out of the University of Kentucky. Now from midfield, Sanders looks to throw it up the middle, and it is caught again. That's Moore, who gets it to the 35, wrapped up by Chidobe Awuzie. 3rd and 8, 2.5 minutes left to go. Tennessee leads by 12. Sanders looks to throw it downfield. It's caught by DJ Moore, who takes it all the way to the 2. Nice play by Moore and the offense. 1st and goal, now at the 2-minute warning. Sanders alone in the backfield, and he is intercepted in the end zone. Caleb Farley with the interception. He nearly ran out of the end zone. That was the game that did that, not me. Luckily, we got him back in the end zone, and it's a touchback. It's all good. That could have been pretty bad, though. The Texans would eventually get the ball back here after the Titans chewed some clock, and on the final play of the game, the Texans would end up scoring a touchdown after all, but it's not really going to matter. The Titans win it 28-23, your final score. Houston covered the spread. I told you, bet on Houston. They're going to make it a good game, and that they did. But nonetheless, that doesn't really matter. The Titans got the win, and that's all that really matters here at the end of the day. A good win here for Tennessee at home by the exact same score as last week's game, ironically enough. I feel like we could have put Houston out of this game a little bit earlier. We kind of kept them in it until the final few minutes. But even so, we played really well in the first half offensively. In the second half, we did kind of cool off. The defense was pretty good, though. At least the run defense, well, not so much. But the pass defense was pretty solid. That doesn't mean Kane Sanders had a bad game, though. I honestly thought I was pretty impressed with Kane Sanders. He had one of his better performances this year, which doesn't really say a whole lot. As for Romeo Coloci, he cooked. Pretty good game for him, 251, 3 touchdowns. Both teams were ridiculously efficient running the ball. DJ Moore, Scotty Pickens leading the way for their teams receiving, per usual. And then defensively, both pass rushes, ours in particular, was really good. Shout out to Francis Bello-Camoa, 3 TFLs, 2 sacks, all of which came in the first quarter, and the interception by Caleb Farley at the end to basically ice the game. So a pretty good win here. Again, it wasn't necessarily perfect, but a win is a win in the National Football League, especially on Thursday Night Football and against a divisional rival. We're not going to complain. So we are now 5-3 on the year. We're still a little bit behind Jacksonville in the division, but it is good to see that we're playing good football. We were honestly not all that good to start the year. We opened up 1-2, then we were 2-3, but we've won 3 in a row, and we're really starting to play well. There is one minor problem, though. We have 3 new injuries. While Sekou Bateau and Kyle Pitts will both be back next week, Evan Smith tore his abdominal, Alexander Ekwueme dislocated his elbow, and Travis Talignan, one of our backup linebackers, suffered some knee cartilage tear. So those guys will all be out multiple weeks. Let's take a look at the scores around the league. The Jaguars demolished New England 34-10. Unfortunate, Jacksonville still holds a pretty steady lead within the division. The Colts ended up beating the Broncos as well, so Jacksonville and Indy both won. Players of the week, Najee Harris, Justin Tucker, Nick Bosa, and Darius Leonard. Justin Tucker has passed Romeo Coloci for the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. This is going to be a really exciting race between these two super talented quarterbacks, and they play each other in a couple of weeks. Week 12, Raiders versus Titans, a huge game because A, both teams have playoff implications, and then B, the storylines, the 2 best quarterbacks in the draft, the 2 Rookie of the Year favorites. That's going to be really fun. But in the next episode, we've got a doubleheader. Rams and Seahawks, both in the NFC West. The Rams are a pretty good team. That's going to be a tough matchup on the road. Seattle, not so much. They have 1 win. So that's going to wrap up the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out. Tighten up.